What's going on, guys? This is Matt Marinoff, Real Estate Recovery Group, and my guest today is Gus Saridis. Gus used to be in Closter, New Jersey, home of Rudy's Pizzeria. Now he resides in Florida between Palm Beach and Boca Raton.
Correct.
And so I've known Gus, obviously, I guess all my life. And Gus took off, and he landed in Florida, none other than the best time whatsoever during, was it Hurricane, what was it?
Andrew in 92.
Hurricane Andrew in 92. So he's one of the founding fathers of rebuilding Florida during that time frame. So 92, he's there. He goes to college. He transfers to Miami University.
Yeah, I started it. I transferred into but I didn't stay there very long. I actually ended up at FAU in Boca, which is where I got my business degree from.
Cool. He's been in real estate since 1996. He's always had a love for real estate. He's always enjoyed buying, selling, showing, and touring different types of properties. He loves to analyze properties to death. He's very meticulous, and he definitely has ADD or ADHD. You can see there's not like the coconuts and the palm trees are nice shined up, and he puts some nice gloss on it and stuff like that. Probably the same stuff that he uses on the vets. He started full time in real estate. Were you full time? No, you're full time in corporate America. You were a full time student. You were doing rentals in a small independent office. In 2 years, you started a property management company, which is pretty awesome. And since then, obviously, you've been doing a lot of your real estate the way that you wanted to do it. You've sold commercial buildings. You've sold mobile home parks. You bought and sold apartment buildings. You rented apartment buildings for as little as $500. Sold beachfront mansions or much more to the tune of $13 million. You made some amazing friends. You've worked with some amazing people along the way. You've learned the trade, and I guess your philosophy is that you always like to learn, which I think is pretty cool. Guys, tell us a little bit about your venture. Why did you leave the beautiful state of New Jersey?
You see the coconuts behind me? That's that's pretty much why. Because I know you're going to keep breaking my chops about them. You're
living my dream. You're living my dream. I'm not going to lie. You and Marty Freeman decided to say,
"That's right,
New Jersey,
hasta la vista, baby." And
you were smart enough to escape the madness.
Right.
Kelly Owens is in Florida as well. I know there's some other people down there. So there's like my five or six people still in New Jersey. But so tell us a little bit about yourself, Gus.
I moved down here. Most of my family was coming down here at the time. A lot of them were ahead of me. I stayed up. I was still in college up there, obviously, for about another 6 months or so. And I decided to come down here and catch up with them. Like you said, I transferred into University of Miami. I had the very unfortunate experience of being introduced to hurricanes literally 2 to 3 days prior. Like I said, Andrew barreled through here in 92, and then I arrived. And it was pretty rough down in south of Miami, but it scared the hell out of me. And I said, hey, what am I doing moving to Florida? But this is definitely home. I absolutely love it down here. Really wouldn't change any of the decisions I made or trade it for anything. Beats Jersey. What can I tell you? I got into real estate pretty young. Pretty much when I was still in college. I got my real estate license, at a very young age, and I started doing rentals because it was relatively easy to do, with a really small office, like you'd said, and if anything, I learned everything the hard way. I really learned by doing absolutely everything that I did when it came to real estate. So definitely paid some dues and learned a lot of things with hard knocks. But again, I've had a great time doing it. I've learned a ton along the way, and I've met a lot of great people. Done a lot of interesting things, done a lot of things that, a lot of other people haven't had the opportunity to do. So it's been a lot of fun. Been a lot of fun.
So obviously, I see that the setting that you picked for the backdrop is palm trees for some reason. I think you're trying to torment me, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's what it was, because I knew you were going to do this to me, so I figured I'd at least have to try to push a little bit. So
Well, if you saw the background drop of me introducing you on the Instagram and everything else, I had the palm trees on it.
yeah,
That's my dream. One day I'd like to get down there. Hopefully, eventually. At this point, it's probably going to be with or without my family, and I may or may not still be alive and sprinkled on the white sand beaches of Boca Raton. Who the hell knows at this point? But so you're in real estate. So you were down there during 2008.
yeah.
You were down there, during the massacre, the crash, during that time frame. Tell, tell us what it was like. What was going on at that point? And honestly, how did it affect you?
I mean, the real estate market was a disaster at that point. It was a total unorganized. It was a shit show, to be honest. When everything started going south, the bottom fell out. The values just went straight to hell, and that's the point at which we were introduced to short sales, basically, where people were selling their homes or forced to sell their homes for less and a lot less than realistically what their mortgage balances were. For the new folks that are listening, that's exactly what a short sale is in a nutshell. And the trouble with it at that point is it was brand new. No one knew what the hell they were doing. So it was tough. It was the first time the banks had ever seen anything like this. The homeowners had absolutely no idea what they were doing. Buyers were getting stuck in contracts for months and months and months because nobody knew how to handle these things. And it was a big unorganized mess. And they were everywhere. Because in the years prior, the market was going up at such a rapid rate. The values were climbing so high. It started to get to a point where it was very unrealistic, the values. That along with a lot of really bad lending practices across the board, a lot of these stated loans, you got people walking into the bank saying, hey, I make $1 million a year. I want a loan. And in reality, these people were just average middle income folks, and they weren't going to be able to carry these types of properties. So the bottom fell out of the market. It wasn't until it took a couple years for everyone to get organized and figure out how to get through that short sale process, at least a little bit better than in the beginning, to make it a bit more efficient. So, people could actually sell their homes and get away from foreclosures. But, again, because of that lengthy time frame to go through that process, in a lot of cases, it just made more sense to foreclose. A lot of people just walked away from their homes. They didn't really know what their options were. They weren't getting any good guidance really from anyone, be it the real estate community or their banks or anyone. So a lot of people just walked. They walked away from their properties. The banks inherited all these properties, and even they didn't know what to do. So it was a mess for a while. It was definitely a mess for quite a bit.
Do you feel that for whatever reason during that time frame that the banks were, I don't want to use the word useless, but were almost lost, not directed to a certain point. They were following directions and protocol that was in place for short sales that, quite honestly, short sales have been around for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So they used to be called short pays, like short pay. And so when it was a short pay, back then, they would literally do a short pay. And the difference, from what I understand, between the short pay and the short sale, hold up, and I'm going to throw this up here, is when they did a short pay, what they did was somebody would call and inquire about a property. They had authorization, and people still to this day don't believe me. They were getting approval letters in less than a week, wrapping it up. It was very easy. But then when the market really went bananas, they didn't have enough staff to handle, the catastrophe that was happening around them, and the process started to get pushed out. So I would speak with people in the height of this in 2009, and people were completely overwhelmed. They were starting to build teams within the organizations, and you'd have a team lead literally managing, let's say, 5 people on their team, and they might have been overseeing 3,000 files, which is ridiculous, versus an individual working on, let's say, 500 files, when the norm used to be maybe 50, 60 files.
Yeah, at
So
most.
that's why the process got so blown out of proportion.
Right.
Then
The sheer volume, basically. They just couldn't handle the volume that was coming in at that time. It was the volume that it was just, it was just way too much. They weren't staffed for it.
that was the other thing. They were pulling people off of help desks. They were literally like, I mean, there's jokes about it where they were literally saying to janitors, do you know how to use a PC? Do you know how to, are you cool with people? And literally pulling people in and like, and basically saying to them, you're now knighted and
Yeah.
now you're a negotiator.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, but that's also basically what was happening. And then I was getting pictures of the inside of the banks of some of these stacks of files of paperwork, and they're reviewing, the collateral paperwork or just going through files in general. And one person, I have to dig up this photo because I thought it was hysterical. It's literally no man's land. There were files all over the desk. There were files jammed underneath the desk. I think files were even falling out of the drawer, because these were files that particular person, I guess, quit, left, fired, had a meltdown, who the hell knows. But that's just a perfect example of people that were saying, like, why is my short sale not getting approved?
And that's why, right.
So that's exactly why. So, based on what happened in the past and what is going on right now, we're talking about, the current market, and people were worried, obviously, if we are now in 2020. And I myself and my team had mentioned that there was going to be a correction. There was going to be somewhat of an adjustment. But here's the thing that people don't understand. This adjustment correction was supposed to be from the modifications from 2013, 2014 that had failed. But because of the fact that the 2008 meltdown, there's so much garbage still from that that's still out there, and the whole thing with the COVID-19 causing madness and mayhem in my world. I'm calling it the trifecta, 2020, and that's actually going to be in my book. So let's get into it. I had asked you if it's okay if I ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, fire away.
Based on what I feel in the market. So this is question number one. Is the world coming to the end? In other words, is the market going to crash? What is your opinion on that?
I'm actually kind of glad you asked, so we can kind of just get this out of the way. But I'm sure we're going to have different opinions on this, and it's very interesting because if I told you how many times I'm asked this question on a regular basis, literally, if I had a buck for everyone that asked this, I'd have a G5 on standby. It's pretty much the only thing anybody asks me right now when you want to talk about real estate. My humble opinion is that no, the world's not going to come to an end. Is there a possibility for some pockets of correction? Sure. But there's a lot of differences between what happened before and what's currently happening now. And I guess I'm also focusing on, you bring up a couple of other underlying issues that maybe people aren't thinking about because they're only thinking about COVID. So I guess I'm also kind of thinking only about COVID because that's really what folks are asking when they ask me that question. Hey, is everything just going to go to hell? So as it relates to COVID, I don't think so. A majority of the indicators, all of the data that's coming from NAR, from the National Association of Realtors. If I look at the year-over-year statistics from last year coming into now, those numbers are really solid. They're really, really solid. And I like numbers, so I brought a whole bunch of statistics so you can play with those at your leisure. And for the folks that are listening, you can do with them what you will. The chief economist over at NAR, and economists are just generally negative to begin with. They just are a majority of the time. But they actually, this Lawrence Yun, who's the economist for NAR, is optimistic about where the economy is going, especially as it relates to the housing market, the residential real estate market. Even though the GDP has declined a little bit, if you haven't been to your local Home Depot or Lowe's lately, those parking lots have been absolutely jammed throughout this. It's as if they're almost giving things away. Just actually, home building, home sales, remodeling has actually been up over 20% for the first 3 months of this year. And that's coming into the pandemic. Okay. Because you gotta put March in there. Personal income is only up by a couple percent, but savings have jumped over 150%. So you can say, well, how is that? All right. I get it. You got a lot of people out there that are basically not paying their rent. They're not paying their mortgage. So hopefully they're smart enough that they're putting some of that money into savings, which is probably going to account for, some percentage of that number, a healthy percentage. But building materials across the board up over 10%. And that's a big number. That's a big number in the grand scheme of things. People are basically upgrading their homes across the board. That's going to add value in the short and in the long term. When you talk to realtors, 75% of them think that a majority of these home sellers are kind of, they're kind of hanging on, waiting for some of this to pass before they put their homes on the market. And if they're doing a lot of these improvements, that means their homes are going to go on the market for more money than potentially before the pandemic occurred. That's going to press values up at least a little bit. You can't get away from that. There's no meaningful downward trend across the board, whether you're talking about values, whether you're talking about sales. The number of sales have actually gone up over last year, coming into this year, and the inventories continue to drop. That's creating a stronger and stronger seller's market, which is going to, at the very least, keep prices where they're at or continue to push them up. The mortgage rates are at a record low. They just dropped again. 30-year fixed mortgages are right around 3.5%. The 15-year rates are sub 3%. I mean, you're basically talking about almost borrowing the money for free. So it's still a strong market out there. And just for myself personally, I have probably been busier over the last month to 2 months than I was for the last 6 months of last year. And I'm not anticipating any real slowdown there, at least for another couple of months, the way things are going and the way the pipeline looks. So
you're not really too concerned with the market.
I'm not terribly concerned with it. If I look at some of the differences between what happened before and what's happening now, I think the whole basis of why the market crashed the last time was just, it was just totally different than what we're dealing with now. You've got higher unemployment rates, but a lot of those folks are not necessarily, I don't think they're necessarily the same people. You got a lot of renters mixed into there too. It's a mix, but there's a lot more renters, whereas last time it was the poor lending practices really that kind of pushed up to what happened with all the mortgages and the overinflated values. Right. We're not looking at that this time. With a lot of the forbearances that are out there occurring, realistically, for those people that are unemployed, if they couldn't write a check for the last month, 2 months, and going forward for another couple of months to pay their regular mortgage until they're back in a steady job, I have a hard time believing they're simply going to write one check to make all those cumulative payments at the end of it. So what's the solution? The solution is a basic loan modification where those payments are going to be tacked onto the mortgage. The interest is still accruing anyway, and the mortgages are going to be reset. Because I don't really think that there's another solution beyond that, unless people sell their homes in those cases where the homeowner is going to be able to continue to move forward. I don't really see a situation where you just say, okay, the hell with it, foreclose on them. What does that do to the economy? What does it do to home prices? What does it do in general? It wouldn't be a good situation without the banks coming in and saying, and the banks never really lose money. I don't give a shit what they say. It doesn't really lend itself to a good economic position across the board. So I think we're going to see a lot of new loan modifications as people begin to get employed again. And I think that's going to be a major contributing factor to getting people out of the mortgage mess that they're in and getting them back on track.
Gus, what's wrong with the real estate market tonight?
I always know when you're going to ask me these types of questions because we kid about this stuff and, we tell stories to each other all the time. It's really interesting. I think when new people come into the market, new realtors, new agents, I think they just think they're going to blast through that class for a couple $100. They're going to get their license, join the board, and they're just going to run out there and start selling multi-million-dollar houses from day one. And it just doesn't work that way. I think unlike every other business that you can get into, it costs virtually nothing to get into the real estate business as a realtor.
How much does it cost, honestly? So the class costs a couple $100, right? And then,
right.
And then
it probably costs maybe. It probably costs maybe $500, give or take a few dollars. I mean, I haven't taken the class in 20 years. $500 or so to go to Gold Coast. We have down here, whatever it is, and go through the class. It costs about another $150, $60, $70 to take your state exam, and you're licensed. You're done. The only thing you have to do beyond that is pretty much join your local board, so you have access to the multiple listing service. I don't know, $700-800 a year, whatever it is, and you're in business for $1,500 to $2,000. And any other business, you want to buy into a franchise, you want to open up a burger joint, sell shoes, whatever it is you want to do. Franchise restaurant, $300,000 minimum just to even get a phone call back. Plus, you need assets sitting around in order to show that you're strong enough to last 6 months to a year. It costs nothing to get into the business, and because of that, that's why the joke. Everybody says you get pulled over by a cop down here, and they ask you for your real estate license, not your driver's license. Everybody's got a real estate license.
Yeah, that's funny as shit. I like that.
But it's true, and it's really the barriers to entry. It costs so little to get involved in this business that everybody just assumes it's so easy, and it's not. You got to go out there and you got to get educated, and it's a lot of work. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's a 25-hour a day, 8-day a week job, especially in the beginning. To have
an extra hour coming in.
Jesus, almost got hit by a golf ball.
Nice. Good. We could have put on America's Funniest Videos.
Good Lord. So that's a tough one, and I think people just have to think about it a little harder before they jump in, because it's a bit more work and a lot more education than most folks think it is, and you have to treat it like an actual business. It's not a part-time job. The sun shines on every dog's ass once in a while, and you're going to get lucky and get your neighbor or your friend or whatever to buy a house or whatnot. You'll get a deal here and there, but if you want to do well and you want to do well consistently, it's a business, and you have to treat it that way. And that takes a lot of time and investment and education.
So, you and I, we do joke about it, right? So you are the mindset of an entrepreneur, whereas most people that get into the business, and again, it's the barrier of entry of getting a real estate license. Sometimes it takes people multiple times to get the license. Then they get the license, Then they're like, cool, I'm ready to go. I got my AMG Mercedes picked out. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hit the ground running. And then
Mhm.
2 months later, they're serving, at a restaurant, or they're working on a fast food restaurant, because realistically they're living either in la la land, or they're trying to build a business on a mindset of a 9 to 5 person
Right.
versus the mindset of being an entrepreneur. So, what do you enjoy most about real estate, and what you're doing, and what do you do?
Well, I guess I try, because I've been doing it for so long, I've kind of, I've built up quite a referral business at this point, and that just doesn't happen overnight. To continue on with your last question, it doesn't happen overnight, and the reason why a lot of I guess agents, they really don't know what they're getting themselves into. You mentioned the hopping tables job. A lot of people get that advice when they first start. Hey, keep another job for a while so you have a few bucks, because a lot of people don't understand how expensive it is to start. Because
Right,
again, you're building a business. The business doesn't come to you.
right,
You have to advertise, Zillow, realtor.com, print advertising, all this stuff. It costs money,
right,
and you have to do it consistently to get a return. You can't just do it for a month or two and expect a windfall of business. So, that costs bucks. And that's where, the average person that just doesn't know anything about this business kind of gets a little lost. So what do I enjoy? I'm a relationship type of guy. A lot of my clients have become good friends of mine. I love to build and cultivate relationships with people. It's just a lot of fun for me, and it comes naturally, especially around this business, because I love doing it.
right,
Um, it you might laugh, but I love touring properties. I love seeing property. I don't care what kind of shape they're in. They could be mansions, they could be falling apart,
right,
because I look at them a little differently sometimes than other people do. I look at them from an investment standpoint a lot of times. So I see opportunity. I see the other four houses on the block that are worth, 50, 60% more. And, I got a roof leak or two. Big deal. Fix it. Put a paint job on it. Sell it.
right.
So I love going through properties and looking at them. And I enjoy relationships, and I really enjoy solving problems for people. And that's a portion of the relationship, whether it's a first time home buyer that's on a tight budget, whether it's an investor that's trying to get a particular rate of return, uh, whether it's a business that needs X amount of space and a tough zoning for an area. I enjoy solving those problems, and ultimately that's what gets me more business. Um, so those are probably the three biggest things: the relationships, the problem solving, um, and the touring of property. Truthfully.
Do you ever wake up in the morning and go, I hate what I do?
Don't we all?
I mean, I don't really. I actually love what I do, so I don't look at it as work. But I think that most people, they get caught in a rut like life, and they just keep doing it because that's all they know.
I'm gonna say yes, because I'm gonna answer you honestly. I'm not gonna blow smoke like a lot of other people will, and I'll tell you why. Because I think everyone, especially people that that have that tick, that are always trying to be better, that have that push for success, they're always their own worst critic. And it's to a fault sometimes. We laughed about this also the other day. The notion of success, it's not a destination. You don't get there one day driving along. It's not Disneyland where you stop and you're like, wow, here we are. It doesn't work that way. And I think the whole, especially now with all the social media and the Ferraris and the BS houses, everybody's constantly looking at that like, wow, I want to be that. It's just not a destination. You're always chasing it.
There is a journey.
Right. There's a journey that never really stops. And a person that's truly driven to success, they, in their mind, they never really get there. they're always trying to be better. They're always trying to learn more. They're always trying to be better than they were last week, last month, last year. And that's what drives them. And that's why somebody who doesn't think that way, that's why they're ultimately successful. It's because of that mindset. They don't necessarily think, oh, wow, I'm like super successful. They're trying to be better than they were. But the guy down the street that's, maybe popping tables, like you said before, he looks at that guy and is like, wow, that guy's really successful. But he's beating himself up. Like, damn, I got to get 10% better than I was last year. The Ferrari is just a byproduct of that.
So for me, in 2005, when I got into the industry and I started doing short sales, people were like, who the fuck is Matt Marinoff? And what the hell is a short sale? Mm-hmm. And by 2007, people knew who I was, at least in the Jersey area, for the most part, at least in Bergen County. And then they understood the concept of a short sale because it was really starting to come on hard. And we started doing training through education. I wrote 2 work manuals for short sales. I did a work manual for loan modifications. And then I kind of like faded out. And I went behind the scenes and I worked with a lot of investors for many years. And then I started to like reemerge, let's just say, 5 years ago, and hit it hard with social media and start to build a brand. I wanted to go nationwide and offer services on a national level because I felt like so many people were left behind. It's like you're fighting a war and then everybody has a unit. And in those units, maybe you have 7 or 8 people. And maybe 2 or 3 of those people get left behind and they're surviving, but they don't know what to do. So I look at it as what I do is I'm the missing link, AKA maybe Robin Hood, and going in and letting people know what their options are, whether it's a homeowner, whether it's an investor, whether it's the real estate agent. I even consult with attorneys all over the United States now, which is pretty cool, on this type of realm. What are you giving advice to people that are new agents that are coming out of real estate school? And not that I'm saying they're being sold a shit bag of goods, but they're not getting the full picture. So how many years are you in real estate? I'm 15 in short sales. What are you at in real estate?
And actually, I got my broker's license in 96. I had my regular sales license about 2 years before that. So I'm 25 plus years at this point.
So 25 plus years in real estate. What are you going to give somebody who's watching this right now? And incidentally, this is going to be cut up, and I'm getting ready to launch my podcast, hopefully in the next 30 days. This is going to be in that podcast. What advice are you going to give somebody who's a new agent?
Find a new career. Don't go into real estate. No, honestly, you and I have talked quite a bit, and even though sometimes there's a gap in time, I've seen you solve some problems, with short sales and so forth. That it's like water that rolls off a duck's back. You just get in there and you solve those problems, and the agents and the attorneys and the banks, everybody's going in a different direction, and you put it together, you make it work, and it's a function of experience, a function of education. And again, when I said we're all our own worst critic, all my experience in real estate, I've spent a lot of time, because I'm very critical of myself. I've spent a lot of time doing it wrong. I've tried to always do my own thing. I've mostly been independent for a majority of my career. There were only 2 very short times where I worked with a larger brokerage. Other than that, I always had my own company. I've had, maybe 5 of them at this point. So I've always done my own thing. If I had to give advice, one of the things that I didn't do from the beginning, get a mentor. Find somebody that's really successful, whatever your niche is in real estate or whatever niche you want in real estate, whether you want to be a great realtor, investor, whatever, get a mentor. Go to work for them, even if you're making peanuts. If you're going to be a buyer's agent for, the county's most successful realtor, you know, and stick to them like glue. I don't care if you're taking his shirts to the cleaners. Ask him questions, you know, do his paperwork, whatever it takes, and learn from that person. Learn the processes that they use to be successful. Learn how they do their marketing, but get a mentor because they're already doing it right. Okay, you can't reinvent the wheel in certain businesses, and this is one of them. You know, the most successful agents I see, and again, I'm critical of myself. I'm far from perfect, but they have systems in place for everything. And you know, they don't try to do everything themselves like I do. It's you know, you can only do so much as one person, you know, but get yourself a mentor from day one and get an education. You cannot read enough, you cannot learn enough. Again, you're not going to just take your license, wave it around at Douglas Elliman and expect that, you know, they're going to give you a job from day one and start throwing clients at you with multi-million-dollar listings where you have no experience. It just doesn't work that way unless you have some serious relationships and you bring a lot to the table. You know, it's just not going to work that way. So get an education, get a mentor from day one.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, you know, it's funny because for me, in this industry, so many people won't move forward unless they're getting a CT credit, which cracks me up because they're like, well, if I'm not going to get credit for it, why am I going to take that course? It's like, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
Like, you're an entrepreneur. Don't worry about the credit. Don't even worry about, you know, some type of award. Worry about what type of contribution you're going to be able to offer in the real estate community, and you're going to want to be the best you can be. Now, I have more people that are coming at me that are more group orientated, and they're asking me, Matt, can you work with us as a group? I'm not taking any more clients until next month because I don't want to dilute what I do and taking the time away from doing the 12 o'clock shows, offering the Tuesdays and Thursday night shows, and obviously overseeing my business and working with my team. And I like to review and speak with the new clients as they come in. And that all comes into play. Like when I speak with real estate agents, they have no clue what they do with the short sale. They have nothing. They have no idea what to say, how to say it. They're getting no direction whatsoever. So, I mean, what would you say to somebody besides the mentor? I mean, obviously, there's other things they can do. Unfortunately,
you know, you bring up a really good point, and it's true. You know, everybody's a realtor. Okay, anybody can stick your property in the MLS, for example, or you know, get you a tour of a property and pop open a lockbox. I could get my dog to do that. He knows how to go in and outdoors. You know, I can't keep him in any room. You have to add value. You have to do things that go above and beyond just your real estate license. And, you know, with time and with experience, that means building a team of qualified people around you. You know, you need a good real estate attorney that you can rely on, that you can go to with questions for your clients. You know, you need someone, if they're going to get involved in a short sale, you need someone like Matt Marinoff, for example, that knows what the hell he's doing and knows how to navigate that process and cut through the BS to get a result. You know, we have contractors that we work with when people want to do remodels so they can get a straight answer. And I know, you know, some people might laugh at this stuff, but let me tell you, this is Florida. There are a ton of contractors down here that I wouldn't hand them a broom and let them sweep my patio. You need good people. You need a good team around you. You know, we have excellent finance people that we work with. We have decorators that we work with. You know, you got to have a team in place because this brings added value that perhaps the next person just doesn't have. You know, it's you can't, but again, you can't just wave your business card and your license around and think you're going to be successful. If somebody wants to invest in real estate, you better know how to do those numbers, okay, and get to the bottom line for a lot of people. Show them how they can raise the rate of return on their property, how they can improve their property in order to build equity or to drive their cash flow up. If you don't, then you better bring somebody on your team who does, or you already lost that client. Because a lot of times when qualified people like that ask you a question, you can bet your ass they already know the answer. And if you don't, then you lost a client.
That's actually a very good point. So, besides finding a mentor, not everybody is a self-starter. Not everybody has the entrepreneur uh, way of thinking. So, if you're new in the industry, you want to figure out, or you want to find the right way to engage clients and find out, what it is, whether it's a buyer, whether it's a seller. Why not latch on to somebody that knows what they're doing and pay your dues? So you know what? So you don't make 100%. Who cares?
Right.
But at
Right.
least you're earning. You don't have to stay with that person on their team forever if you don't want to. You can branch out. So I do agree with the whole. You definitely should find a mentor. Like right now, I don't find for myself. I don't find being a real estate agent something that I want to do, but I don't know. You know what? I might move out of New Jersey one day, and maybe I'll find myself. You're already laughing. I might find myself in the promised land and cross over, and where it says the state of Florida. I might pick up my phone and say, "Gosh, guess what? I'm getting my real estate license.
Hey,
I'm gonna come work for you."
hey, come on down.
So I think people have these trips and these egos where they feel like, well, I was this person when I worked for so and so, and now you're asking me to belittle myself, and now you want me to go work for this person.
Again, to me, it's about the relationship. So when you say things like, oh, maybe to make 100% this time, it doesn't matter, because you got to think a little more long term about it. Because if that person is satisfied, not only are they going to be a client for life, but they're going to pick up the phone and they're going to refer business to you. Okay. And it could be anyone. And believe me, I have gotten more business that way through referrals than I ever have with the just countless tens and God knows hundreds of thousands of dollars I've spent on advertising. Yeah, you get business that way, and there's a steady stream of business that way. But it's really nice when the phone rings with referrals that these people are already coming in warm. I don't have to sell them because, for example, Joe said, hey, this guy's top notch. He did this, this, and this for me. So I've already got a trust there. I've already got a relationship there. I don't have to go through the whole process of selling myself. I'm just, I can get right into it. Those are the best for me. When somebody refers you business, there's no better compliment than that. There's no higher compliment.
So just guys, this is actually going to be ripped apart, and it's probably going to end up being on a podcast. So, what would you say to somebody right now that's watching it, as far as reaching out to you, your company name, your full name, the best way for them to reach out to you? What is it that you would like people to know on the open airwaves?
I mean, anyone's welcome to call me directly on my cell. I'm a really easygoing guy. I mean, this is what I do. You have questions, somebody moving to Florida, you need help with commercial properties, whatever it might be. You need a real estate attorney in Florida, whatever you need, call me direct on my cell. It's Matt put it up. It's 561-305-5051. My email address is just the name of my company, luxrealestatebrokers@gmail.com. Lux has an E on the end, and brokers is plural, all one word. luxrealestatebrokers@gmail.com. So call me, email me, call Matt, and he'll get you in touch with me. Send a pigeon, whatever. I'm here. I'm available anytime, day or night. Again, that's my cell, so you can text on it too. But I get calls day and night from my clients, and again, I don't get mad about that because that goes with the territory. It's the business. I enjoy hearing from people. So
I'm going to destroy your last name when I say it at the end of this anyway. So.
It's Saridis. I'm not going to let you do it. I'm going to send you a couple of coconuts too.
So guys, I love having you on. At the end of every show, I ask people for them to do the finger point. So I want to see if
you know what? I was gonna do that anyway because I can't do it like you. God, I was gonna break your chops about it. I don't know how do you do it? You get in there like that?
bro. I'm not gonna lie. That's a solid 8.
An 8? That's all I get.
Dude, no one's getting a 10. Are you out of your mind? Dude, I'm gonna say,
Look at that. I got coconuts in the background. Come on, and palm trees.
You could cut glass with that finger. I'm not gonna lie, bro.
Look at that. Woo!
But you know what? It's shaking. I gotta take points off. It's shaking.
I can't help. I drink a lot of espresso. What can I tell you? Got to keep going.
Guys, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Matt, this was awesome. Thank you very much for having me. Obviously, we're going to continue to stay in touch, and if you want to talk about anything, we certainly know how to get a hold of each other. But I would use the game at some point if you want.
You got spare room down there, bro?
Yeah, I'm sure I could fit you in.
I mean, I'll sleep on the dog bed. I don't really give a shit either way.
It's a memory foam mattress. It's pretty comfortable. So I end up there sometimes. So it's pretty good.
For the dog?
Yeah.
You got money, bro. You got money.
Come on.
So, guys, the show is Real Estate Recovery Group. We're doing this Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. When available, Tuesdays and Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I wanted to thank Gus Saridis for coming on today and obviously offering, his information and giving us insight on what's going on in the Boca Raton, West Palm Beach area.
Yep, Palm Beach County.
What's the town you live in?
I live in Lake Worth. I'm pretty much right between West Palm Beach and Boca, basically.
And how far away is that from Miami?
Depending on how fast you drive, about an hour.
So if I was to jump in like one of your dad's old vets, 35 minutes?
Yeah, you can. I mean, now there's not that much traffic on the road, but
I'm sure due to the COVID.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you coming on. This was fun.
Thanks, Matt. A lot of fun.
Absolutely. Guys, just remember, sharing is caring. And if you're a real estate agent, remember, you are not a 9-to-5er. You are an entrepreneur. Talk to you soon. Guys, hold on one sec. Don't go anywhere. I love that. Hold on.